On July 26, 2023, a former United States intelligence officer sat before Congress, raised his right hand, and testified under oath that the United States government has recovered craft of non-human origin, under oath, on live television, in the United States Capitol. His claims have never been independently verified. No physical evidence was shown. But that's not the strange part. The strange part is what happened next. Nothing. No emergency broadcasts, no markets crashing, no crowds in the streets. Within a week, the story had slipped below celebrity gossip and political arguments. Within a month, most people couldn't tell you the witness's name. For 70 years, millions of people demanded that governments open their UFO files. Then governments actually started talking, releasing videos, publishing reports, and holding hearings. And almost nobody cared. So here's the question this video is really about. What if disclosure isn't coming as one dramatic moment because it's already happening, slowly, quietly, and in a form so anticlimactic that most of the world will never notice it? We all know what disclosure was supposed to look like. Movies taught us. Decades of science fiction taught us. A president interrupts every broadcast on Earth. A hangar door slides open. A craft is revealed under floodlights. The words are finally spoken. We are not alone. And in that instant, everything changes. Religion, politics, war, money, meaning. That image is so deeply embedded in our culture that it became the definition of disclosure. Anything less does not count. And that may be exactly the problem. Because if you are waiting for the hangar door, you might not notice the filing cabinet quietly being opened instead. If real institutional change arrives as paperwork instead of spectacle, would you even recognize it? Now compare that fantasy to what actually happened. In December 2017, the New York Times revealed that the Pentagon had been quietly running a program to investigate unidentified aerial phenomena, years after officially claiming it had no interest in the subject. In April 2020, the Department of Defense formally released 3 Navy videos showing objects its own pilots could not identify. Not leaked, released, with an official statement confirming the footage was real. In 2021, U.S. intelligence agencies published a report examining 144 military incidents of unidentified aerial phenomena. They could confidently explain exactly one of them. The rest remained unresolved. In 2022, the Pentagon established a permanent office whose entire job is investigating these incidents. And in 2023, decorated Navy pilots testified before Congress, describing objects that appeared to outperform anything in the American arsenal, tracked simultaneously by radar, infrared cameras, and trained human eyes. Let's be precise here, because precision matters. None of this confirms extraterrestrial life. Unidentified means exactly that. Unidentified. Officials acknowledged unexplained incidents. They did not announce aliens. And in 2024, the Pentagon's own historical review stated it found no verifiable evidence of extraterrestrial technology. But step back and look at the shift. For 50 years, the official position was ridicule and denial. Now the official position is, these objects are real. Some remain unexplained, and we are formally investigating them. By any historical standard, that is an extraordinary reversal. So why did the world just shrug? Part of the answer is simple. There was no single, undeniable piece of evidence. No craft on a runway. No body on a table. Just grainy infrared footage, sworn testimony, and bureaucratic language like insufficient data to attribute. Fragments don't trigger revolutions. Fragments trigger debates. And every fragment arrived pre-wrapped in doubt. The videos were low resolution. The witnesses could be mistaken. The most explosive claims, recovered craft, and secret programs came without physical proof and remain unverified to this day. Skeptics had reasonable objections. Believers had reasonable frustrations. Nobody had certainty. There's also a deeper problem: trust. After decades of official denial on this exact subject, why would anyone take official acknowledgement at face value now? The very institutions releasing the files had spent half a century insisting there was nothing in them. And then there's the environment these stories landed in. A pandemic, wars, elections, an AI revolution, economic anxiety. The UAP hearings weren't competing with silence, and they were competing with the loudest, fastest information ecosystem in human history, where even genuinely historic news gets roughly 72 hours before the feed refreshes. Add 70 years of exaggerated UFO claims that went nowhere, and you get a public with a fully developed immune response. Another UFO story? Sure. Wake me up when there's a body. The point isn't that people are foolish. It's that sustained attention has become almost structurally impossible, even for the biggest question there is. Which brings us to the central idea of this video. What if disclosure was never going to be an announcement? What if it's a process and we're inside it right now? Look at the trajectory. Flying saucers became UAP, a sterile acronym you can say in a Senate hearing without smirking. Ridicule became formal investigation. Anonymous witnesses became decorated military pilots. Total denial became official acknowledgment of uncertainty. Fringe forums became congressional record. Each step was small enough to absorb. No single step forced anyone to change their worldview. And that raises an uncomfortable possibility. What if the quiet reaction wasn't a failure of the process, but the design of it? Think about it as a hypothesis, not a fact. If any institution ever needed to move a genuinely destabilizing subject into public view, the last thing it would want is panic. The rational strategy would be exactly this: release fragments. Use dry language. Let each revelation become boring before the next one arrives. Normalize the impossible one PDF at a time, so that by the time anything definitive is ever said, the public has already been vaccinated against shock. To be clear, there is no proof of a coordinated disclosure plan. This may simply be how bureaucracies behave, slowly, defensively, incrementally. But notice that from the outside, a deliberate soft disclosure campaign and ordinary institutional caution would look identical. Either way, the outcome is the same. The public is being trained to coexist with the unexplained. But there's a darker layer beneath all of this. Ask yourself honestly, what proof would people actually accept today? A photograph? Photographs have been fakeable for a century. A video? We now live in a world where AI can generate photorealistic footage of anything on demand in minutes. A document? Forgeable. A witness? Mistaken or lying or paid. An official government confirmation? Half the population distrusts the government on principle, often for good historical reasons. We may have crossed a threshold almost nobody talks about, the point where no piece of evidence, however real, can convince everyone, and no piece of evidence, however fake, can be dismissed by everyone. Authentic footage would be called AI. AI footage would be called authentic. The same file would split into 1,000 contradictory interpretations within hours, each community retreating into its own version of reality, which means something genuinely unsettling. Even if a world-changing truth arrived tomorrow, fully documented, fully sourced, society may no longer possess a shared authority trusted enough to deliver it. The problem is no longer access to information. The problem is that we've lost the machinery for agreeing on what's true, and that leads to the possibility this channel finds most disturbing. For 70 years, we assumed the barrier between humanity and the truth was secrecy. Locked vaults, redacted pages, men in dark suits. But what if the last barrier isn't secrecy at all? What if it's indifference? Picture the actual moment of a genuine revelation, not in a movie but in reality. It appears in your feed. Above it, a celebrity breakup. Below it, a football score, a political outrage, an ad for shoes you looked at once. It trends for 2 days. The jokes are excellent. The memes are immortal. And then the feed refreshes. Not because people are stupid, but because the attention economy treats every piece of information, from the trivial to the civilization-altering, as identical content competing for identical seconds. The vault spent decades keeping the extraordinary away from us. Now the feed does it for free. So no, the released files do not prove we've been visited. The testimony remains unverified. The videos remain unexplained, not decoded. Anyone telling you otherwise is selling certainty that doesn't exist. But something real did happen, and it deserves more attention than it got. the most powerful military on Earth, now officially admits there are objects in its skies it cannot identify, and daily life didn't change at all. That fact alone tells us something profound about this moment in history. We imagine disclosure as the loudest announcement humanity would ever hear. Instead, it may arrive the way it's arriving now, as a report, a hearing, a grainy video, a government PDF uploaded on a Friday afternoon, and then background noise. The real question may no longer be whether humanity is ready for the truth. It may be whether anyone is still paying attention when it arrives.